Welcome to Backyards and Bevvies. Grab your favorite bevy, pull up a chair, and enjoy the ride. Hey, B&B fam. This podcast is sponsored to you by BetterHelp, H-E-L-P. Is there something getting in the way of your happiness? I know when I traveled the world, I had many days where BetterHelp's worldwide service of licensed professional therapists could have helped me speak to someone no matter where I was in the world about whatever was happening with my life, and with zero judgment. With their ability to match me with a therapist that best fits me, I know my mental health would have been way better back then. Believe me, I needed it. But I'm here to share a way for you to take back control of your mental health by telling you about BetterHelp's awesome services they have for you to talk with a pro about your life through their app or just online. Whether it is a video session or some simple messaging, their team is here to help. I went to check out the app for myself just to see how easy it was to use, and after a series of questions, I was told I would be able to start matching with a therapist in under 48 hours. And what is super rad is that it's affordable and they even offer financial aid too. So come join the 2 million users that have already been helped and gain back control of your mental health by visiting betterhelp.com/backyards for 10% off your first month. Remember, BetterHelp is therapy done securely online. Don't forget to use the special code BACKYARDS and let BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, help you to start living a happier life today. And we're live.
Hi, everybody.
Well, actually, we're never live. This is always a pre-recorded show, so don't get all excited, folks. Calm down out there. I can hear the claps.
Live for us, it counts.
It is live.
Hear the claps.
Literally, I just heard myself clap.
The one clap.
Dang, hater this morning, or this it's still the morning time. Yeah. Well, we're deep into a year, or actually, we're just beginning the next year. We're deep into these shows now. We are rolling.
Welcome to Backyards and Bevvies.
Welcome to Backyards and Bevvies.
By the way,
I've gotten bad at that.
You have. It's okay. I've got your back.
I know. That's why we're a partnership. Yeah. Teamwork, partnership, marriage,
all the
best
things.
Friends, all the things. Yeah. Right? Yeah, this morning I don't think you wanted to be any of those things with the way that I was.
You were purposely driving me crazy.
A little snarky. But I think that's part of my spicy blood in me.
Yes, you definitely have a lot of spice in you.
But this whole conversation today is going to be kind of fun because, we'll get to why we're doing that. But it started yesterday. We were out in the yard. It was nice. It was sunny.
It wasn't warm.
It wasn't hot by any means.
I was hot.
Well, you're pregnant.
Yeah, very
pregnant right now. Very, very pregnant. So if you're watching this on YouTube, it is not donuts and pizza that have taken over Berkeley.
I mean, it is, but it's to feed this little human growing inside of me.
And we are at the final stages.
We
are close. So. But yeah, we're outside. You and I and the little dude were playing
in the yard,
kind of between like two it was like a tree that was blocking the sun. Then there was a big patch of sunlight, and then a whole yard of trees. Mm-hmm. And at one point, you're like, "Oh my gosh, he is just red." But he wasn't like overheating.
Red.
He wasn't sweating. He's you. He is you. Like, you get it,
we get flushed very easily.
You walk from inside the house to the car,
and I'm rosy-cheeked.
You're red. The air is now on full blast.
Yes.
I am cold, and
I run hot.
Yeah, you do. And so it was funny because, I had said, I don't really remember the exact words, but when we were talking about what we wanted to talk about today, I brought up, it is Hispanic History Month.
Hispanic Heritage.
Heritage Month.
Yes.
Sorry. And,
National Hispanic Heritage Month.
Yes. And seeing that I'm Hispanic, but you wouldn't ever...
You would never know.
You would never know. Mm-mm. And I think my whole life, people have, laughed at me when I told them I had Spanish and Mexican blood in me. They're like, yeah,
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Sure, white boy with the last name that sounds like Chris.
Yeah. It's like, but my mom's last name is Ramirez.
Yeah, my whole other side of the family is Gallegos, Ramirez, Provencio.
Yep.
There is, no way that I'm not Hispanic.
Somehow you ended up with the Czech last name.
Well, that's because of my dad.
Yeah.
But somehow I ended up with only, there's certain things about me. I'd say my hair and my eye color really are Hispanic.
Mm-hmm.
after that, you look at my skin, and I am Spanish looking.
Do you get tan?
I do tan, yeah. I think it's the olive
You know
in
what's
me.
funny is that we've been together for over 6 years, and I have never seen you with a tan.
I don't really go in this. I mean, I'm covered in tattoos, so it doesn't really matter.
Well, yeah, but your face.
Yeah, I mean, but there's no point in me going.
But you also like lived inside venues.
Yeah.
Pretty much the whole time we've been together, so you were always inside.
Lived inside venues. I'm not a big fan of just sitting in the sun.
And baking in the sun.
There's nothing.
Excuse me.
God bless you. God bless you.
Excuse me. Thank you.
All right,
Ooh,
can we get back to the show now?
rude.
But
As if I can help it.
there's no real need for me to ever sit in the sun. So yeah, that's probably why you've never seen me tan.
Yeah.
But it was just funny because we started to talk about it, and it was like, well, it's kind of a good segue into a potentially fun show, or an eye-opening show if you've never met me and you only see me on the interwebs and hear my voice via the Podimacast.
You make up the weirdest words.
I feel like I belong on The Simpsons.
Maybe.
Like me and Ned Flanders would be good.
Yeah.
Howdly doodly.
Howdly doodly.
No, but I thought it'd be cool because I might not be the best Hispanic heritage cheerleader, but I do love my Spanish roots and my Mexican roots. I think that there's a lot inside of me that like I said, I'm kind of spicy.
You are definitely
spicy. I have a
spicy.
very, very spicy attitude if you have ever interacted with me. And it's not always just in a agitated way either. Like I just have a spicy, like I just like to have fun. And I like to poke fun, and I like to like push the button sometimes.
Yep.
So I think that is part of that Spanish, Mexican heritage. It's deep inside of me. I love to eat, drink, party, talk, entertain. But then at the same time, I think like the few parts of my white side, I like to be alone.
Yeah.
I don't like to party.
Uh-huh.
I can go to bed and take a nap whenever, like
You never nap.
I don't, maybe not the nap, but the bed. I like bed. So, but there is something very, I don't know. There's this really very cool thing about Spanish and Mexican heritages. It's like the parties are always a little more lively. Like there's always the festivities of food are just a little deeper. The colors are richer. It's just a vivid lifestyle.
The culture is so unique and so interesting. And it's definitely been awesome for me to really get to experience a lot of the things that I wouldn't get to experience had we not met and gotten together.
Yeah.
Like the first time I ever tried a tamale because of you. One of your favorite stories to tell to horribly embarrass me. But I love them. And I, like your dad makes this amazing spicy Mexican soup that he's going to bring again for Thanksgiving, and the awesome enchiladas that he makes. And I mean, I love Mexican food in general. I guess it's probably mostly Americanized Mexican. But hopefully one day we'll actually get to go to Mexico and to Spain and really dive deep into the authentic culture that's in both of those places.
Yeah.
And teach our kids about where their heritage comes from, because even though our son looks the furthest thing from being Hispanic in any way, I mean, he definitely got my vampire pale skin and super light blonde hair.
He is transparent.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
His eyes are, I would say, greenish, brownish.
Yeah.
I mean, they
change color.
They change color like yours, and his hair is very blondish.
Yeah, but there are, like we were talking about earlier, there are light-skinned Hispanic people. It's just not what you immediately think of when you think of those. Yeah.
Well, and that's what I thought would be a very cool conversation to have, because I remember being a kid and growing up in El Paso, Texas. You're surrounded by Mexican heritage more than like the I guess you could say it's all Latino heritage, but there's definitely more Mexican heritage, and that Mexican heritage is a little darker skin. You see more brown hair, dark eyed. Culture, and it's just the way I think of where they're situated, where the land of Mexico landed, like
Mhm.
all the things that have been theirs for hundreds of thousands of years,
Right.
make them have that complexion, as opposed to
Right.
when you go to Spain, they're a little lighter. They're,
Mhm.
there's just different qualities that make those two
Mhm.
Latin cultures different, right?
Mhm.
So I remember being a kid and going down to Chihuahua with my family and being blown away. And I might have said this once or in a short story about my heritage on the show before, but
Mhm.
like I remember seeing this blonde-haired, blue eye. I shouldn't say blonde hair, but like lighter
hair, yeah.
lighter skin, and she was speaking Spanish, and it's always stayed in my brain, like whoa.
Mhm.
And then years later, traveling the world more, it's like okay, this is just I was being ignorant in a way, thinking
Right.
that only Spanish people look one way and only
Right.
Mexican people look one way.
Mhm.
And I think that just comes with time, growing up. But
Mhm.
it was hard for me as a kid because I did have Mexican roots. But since no one believed me, then it was like, well, then I guess I'll just be white.
Yeah. Well, and I mean your mom's side of the family that I have met, they do look more of what I guess the stereotypical
Yeah,
complexion and everything
100%.
would be as far as like Mexican and Spanish goes. But, it's just so interesting how genetics can
It's crazy.
make a difference in that.
I know.
Because, I mean,
If you put me, I think it's me, my sister, and then my one other cousin. You put us three next to our other cousins,
mhm.
and we are...
Look like you're not related.
Yeah, it's like there's three white kids that are now standing next to a bunch of Mexicans.
Like y'all were adopted.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. You brought your friends from school.
Right.
And in El Paso, there wasn't a lot of white kids. Maybe I told the story when my buddy Neil was on. It's like there was Neil and like four other white kids.
Mhm.
And then, like it's 90% Hispanic there.
Mhm.
And so you're the white kids become Hispanic whether you like it or not.
Mhm.
And it's just it was a very interesting place to grow up. And, like looking back on it, I wish I would have embraced my culture more,
Mhm.
because now there's things that I'm missing out on that I have to like read about and be like, oh, okay, that is this or that's that. And I think it was a little bit of embarrassment at times, like, I don't know why. But
Well, kids are mean, and they unfortunately are, products and mirrors of the people that raise them, and can say mean,
but it was
racially
just,
charged things. And
well,
stuff
it was
that.
hard for me to grow. I shouldn't say it was hard for me. It was just different for me because I didn't look the part.
Right.
And so I always had to fight the part to be it. So it was like, well,
so you weren't really accepted by like either side because.
Well, actually, I was accepted by both sides, but it just at the same point though, it was like I just didn't claim either one.
You didn't feel.
I just
you belonged.
rode in the middle. It was like, fine, if I'm not going to be white, I'm just going to be like this. Maybe that's why tattoos to me also became very
You had
my
to find
thing.
an identity.
Yeah, like it was like, okay, well, if I don't look Mexican, even though I am Mexican, and I don't really look white, even though I am white, kind of white.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna have a tattoo. I'm gonna be tattooed. I'm gonna be colored.
There you go.
And so like I like rode in the middle my whole life with
Yeah.
having tattoos, and now you could never tell because I'm completely covered head to toe in color.
In colored tattoos, yeah.
So,
That's interesting.
but I wanted to read before we get too deep into here, because I think culture, it's always been something very interesting to me as I grew up, because I wanted to travel, because I was
Mhm.
interested in other cultures,
Mm-hmm.
which I think also played into the fact of it, I think when we're young, we also tend to not want our parents to be our parents. We want the other
Sure.
parents, and we want the livelier parents or
Yeah.
the wild parents, or we want, oh, I wish I grew up over there, or I
The
wish
ones who don't have rules, or
Yeah.
they're richer, or they have more toys.
Well, you
or...
see it all the time. Like people say things like, "Oh, I wish I lived in that country. They have it so much better," or
Right.
like, or I wish I lived in that house or in that neighborhood. They
grass
have
is
it
always greener.
always greener. And so this part of it is, I made that mistake at a young age by just looking at my culture and being like, ugh, I'm just another whatever Mexican,
Mhm.
or I'm not even a Mexican. I'm Mexican and white. Like I don't even know what
and
I am.
Spanish.
And
yeah.
Spanish, and and it all plays into your brain, and And I think that's one thing that I would love to change about how I saw myself is to give, because I said this to you the other day, the best gift that we can give our kids is if we're going to have them be something, then we have to show them that that's who we are too. It's like if I
lead by example,
follow your dreams, well then I shouldn't.
You better be. I
better be following my dreams and working my butt off to have the coolest life that I've always wanted to live. And now that I want to know more about my Hispanic side and my Spanish side, well, part of that is embracing it and enjoying things that are that, whether it be, going and not just eating Mexican food, but actually like partaking in culture when we have these moments. And so one of the things that I wanted to do is read this little blip. Each year, Americans observe National Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15th to October 15th by celebrating the histories, cultures, and contributions of American citizens whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central and South America.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's like, and it's funny because it starts with, well, like, Americans celebrate it, yeah, because there's no reason for, like, you wouldn't be down in Mexico celebrating your own heritage.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess you would, but it wouldn't be
you celebrated
a month that you celebrate
it every day. It's like, like you don't go to, like, it's funny, like, I've heard this stated with food. You're like, you don't go to China and ask for a Chinese restaurant.
Right. It's like, well,
because it should be everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But you could ask for an American restaurant.
Right.
So, I don't know. I think that learning about your heritage is, it doesn't mean that you have to be the most screaming from the rooftops and paint your house and wear all the T-shirts and the big hats or however it is. But I do think that there's parts where you can really, truly engage with your past and bring forth things that are about you. I don't really know too much about my Czech side other than what I've kind of been told throughout the years. So part of the other side to me is, as the children get older, I want to go to Spain. But, like, so there's Spain. And then, what's your heritage? Well, you have some German in there, right?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm not even 100% sure. I'm definitely as white can possibly be.
So but just circle the three,
like all the European,
Norway, Sweden, Finland, right there.
I think we're German, Polish, and Scottish.
That makes sense.
Are what I remember being told we are, but really, and that's kind of unfortunate too. I need to like really actually dive into my family lineage and stuff like that because I don't know anything about my ancestors or like when we came to America, where did we come from and stuff like that. So, I mean, it would be definitely cool to learn more about that. I mean, I think the majority of my heritage is from Germany. I mean, my mom's maiden name is Germany. And then my maiden name before I married you was Myers, which actually came from Meyer, which is German. So a whole lot of German in there.
But part of that journey with the kids is learning about that too. So I think that is important, and it would be cool to take a trip in Europe because obviously, and it's such a simple comment, but everybody on this land of America at some point
came from somewhere else.
Like we're all immigrants at a certain point. Now, when or where or how, I mean, that's TBA or whatever, however you want to say, however you got here, that's awesome. But you're here. Now, the biggest thing is embracing those cultures and having them intermingle. Because you go to Europe and it's really easy to throw a rock and you're in Spain and Portugal.
Right. Which are two very different cultures.
And I made the
big mistake?
Critical error one time. My first time landing in Portugal. I'd just flown from Switzerland. And I was hungover. I was on like a 4-day hangover because I killed myself, missed my flight, missed my train, missed everything about my life. And then
that was when you originally started touring, right?
Yeah, that was like one of the first big no-nos I ever made. But I get to Portugal, Lisbon, and I get in the cab, and the guy greeted me with something that sounded Spanish. So I being the ignorant person I was, I just said something in Spanish back, and he turned around and, in a nice, very polite way, corrected me. It was like, hey,
like, we don't speak Spanish.
I'm going to let you slide.
But just so you know.
But just so you know, when you're out on the streets, not everybody's going to be as nice as I am, and we speak Portuguese here.
Which there are some similarities between the two dialects.
Yeah.
But there are enough differences, and it is very, very culturally important in Portugal to speak Portuguese.
Yeah.
And not Spanish.
Yeah, it's things like that, I think, that are very important as a human to just kind of recognize. You don't have to, again, be the best at it or be the number one of knower of all cultures. But, if, like, you're flying to Spain, learn a couple words.
Read up on some things.
Learn a couple things. Or even if you're traveling just to Mexico, or even, because going to Canada, you would just assume that it's a bunch of white people that live above,
who have accents.
Like,
no.
But there's a big French culture there. There's deeper roots than just Canada.
Yeah.
And so I think that those are those important moments where our kids have a chance now to be a little bit better than I was. And by doing that, it's by embracing my past.
And teaching them. And
our heritage and your heritage. How did our heritages come together? Because we've now, in theory, we've changed the course of the tree.
Right.
Like, the tree is now different because of us.
Yeah.
And it's not just Spanish, like, because, like, there's my Spanish, my Mexican, and my Czech roots. But now then here's your German,
Scottish and Polish
roots.
And on my side, we definitely don't have any Hispanic or Czech as far as I'm aware. So it's pretty cool that we actually just added, like, none of the same things to each side.
Exactly.
We brought totally different heritage.
Yeah. And that's a really cool thing, Like, I think that there's just something very wild to think about. Last night when we were sitting, finishing up dinner, or was it after, wherever it was, we had seen something. And I was like, isn't it just crazy to think, like, about the first human that gave birth? And then, like, the struggle. Oh, we were watching Minions. There's another. Wait, hold on. Okay, so here's a perfect example of being a little bit ignorant, because you could listen to the Minions talk, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then they say certain words though that might sound Spanish or Italian, and you're like, oh, they took this language, but it's.
We looked it up, and it's a mixture of, like, 10 different languages and, like, a made-up language.
Yeah, and a completely made-up language.
To make the Minion language.
But that's that interesting thing, is that you could take all of those languages and somehow intermingle them, because without being, like, super technical or anything, I'm sure that there is a very, very, very similar plane that they all came from. Whether someone claims Latin or whatever, or caveman, someone banged on a rock and called it a long time ago, way before we came around. And in that moment too, though, the whole conversation was like, could you just imagine, like, we were kind of making fun of, maybe you or, like, had just rolled over in a funny way, and it was like, oh, I'm pregnant. And then we're watching the Minions, and I'm like, and then it's when they're back in, like, the dinosaur age. Like, just imagine that first, like, maybe not even wife, just girl that gave birth to this child, and then they're like, what the F do I do with this thing? It's yelling at me.
What is this?
It's yelling at me. It just shot out at me, like, and it's
how do I feed it? How do I take care of it? And then just generations and generations and generations trying to figure out.
I think I made a comment. It's like, how many broken necks of, like, not on purpose, but, like,
they didn't know that you have to support the baby in a certain way so that you don't hurt it or kill it.
There's caveman dad speaking, at the time, the first inception of Cantonese.
Right.
And he's like, rrr, 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 and he, just holds the baby, and next thing you know, they're, got to try again.
Yeah. Crazy to
so
think.
All those generations, though, have now we have sparked our own little tree. And it's all these cool Hispanic roots deep inside. So now, like, your calm, white, demeanor is now mixed in with my spicy, Latin, fiery, so who knows what the kids are going to be when they're, like, our age. Like,
I love it.
Just fiery little nuggets.
They 100%.
But I think that was part of this whole conversation, was just looking at what we have and where we came from. And, I've heard stories. One cool story from my mom's side was, and I'm going to mess this up, and this is why it's, I think, important to go back and ask the questions and look into it. But I think it was so it'd be my grandma and then her mom, but I think her mom.
So your great-great-grandmother.
Yeah, like her dad basically was the mayor of Juarez, Mexico.
So your great-great-great-grandfather.
Great-great-great-grandfather was the mayor of Mexico.
Oh, wow. Of Juarez.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, when Pancho Villa came through, he, evicted them, and that's how they immigrated into El Paso.
Wow.
So, but, that's generations ago. So, the cool part is that there's that story. Now, I don't know every detail about it, and I'm sure I could look into it way deeper, which we probably should.
Probably should.
So I don't get into any trouble by saying, something that isn't correct. But that's a cool story to me. And I think that by telling the kids something like that, it's like they're going to hear the name Pancho Villa, especially if they do any kind of history,
Well, they'll definitely have to learn it in school.
Well, potentially. I don't know. I don't know how far back they go now, and I don't really know curriculum as well as, I don't know what's changed about schools, where, because in Texas, you learn about Texas history. So, in Tennessee, do you take Tennessee history and then U.S. history?
I'm not sure.
So I don't know. But that's my point, though, is that, so even if they don't, they might hear his name really quick. They might not get the full scope. But then we could go back and be like, hey,
we actually have ties to this.
We have ties to this. Now, the amount of ties and, that's to talk about on a different, podcast show.
Yeah.
On a different Backyards and Bevvies show.
Struggle.
Sorry, I got excited and I forgot the name of our show.
You're like, on a different podcast show.
But yeah, to me, growing up, I never cared to know that story, never thought about it, never crossed my mind. And then I just happened to be on tour one year, and I had swung through my grandma's house, and she was getting older. She ended up making it to 96.
I think so, yeah.
96, yeah. Maybe 97, but it was up there, and I remember at one point I was like, maybe I should go spend some time with her. And it was really cool. We sat down and she opened up her photo album, and we went through photos, and she would tell me about certain relatives and certain things that happened. And I wish that I had more time with her, because then I could have asked more questions, because it's one thing to hear it through an aunt or an uncle or, a second party, but, I could have asked her, and I wish I would have had that chance. So, I think that that's something that I would love for, our little ones to do, is have those chances to experience with their grandparents and talk to them and ask those questions. So yeah, but they'll never do that if we just never tell them that we have cool history,
Right. Well, and I think that that's something on us that's very important to do, is to really encourage our kids as they spend time with their grandparents to ask those kinds of questions and be interested in those kinds of things. Because I feel the same way, I have one living grandparent remaining, and she's actually my step grandmother, if you want to be technical about it. So we don't have any actual blood relation. I adore her, but it would have been awesome to really take the time to sit down with my blood related grandparents and ask them about our history and our heritage and stuff like that. And it's interesting, you don't really think about those things or regret not doing those things until you become an adult, sort of our age, and you're trying to learn more about where you came from and stuff like that, because now you're having kids and extending the family line and stuff. So definitely want to encourage our little ones to get to learn those types of things and us learn them through that experience.
Well, I can definitely see it across some of my friends that I, speak to or just kind of follow their stories, everyone's busy, so you don't always get a chance to speak, but, you can look at friends and sure, it's awesome to take kids to trips to Disneyland and things like that. But, there is something, I think, truly amazing when you can take your young ones and have them intertwine and learn and grow in the culture that is part of their culture. Because then as they age older, they will embrace those cultures with a better, with a more love, I think. And that's the important part. It's like, is it cool to know, the year Mickey Mouse was drawn? Sure. I guess. But it'd be way cooler to know, like when your family came across or came over or maybe, like
did my family come through Ellis Island? Like,
yeah, like what port, because there's many, like there's San Francisco could have been one. And then at a certain point, there was no San Francisco. So, you had to come through, one side and then migrate over. There's just so much to it that I think that talking about it now, I'm really like, I can look into the future of our family and know that we will do more trips that engage like that just because I'm interested as well.
Right.
And so I think partly if I'm interested, then hopefully I can translate that down to our little ones and they'll get interested.
For sure.
And
if not, too bad. You're going to be forced to be interested.
Well, for one, I love chips and salsa.
Yum.
As horrible as that sounds, like like I love Mexican food. I should love my culture way more.
Well, it's time for us to start learning.
No, but
Barcelona is really at like the top of our travel list right now.
Oh my gosh!
Other than going back to France,
Barcelona, Madrid, all of those. Like San Sebastian. Spain is just such a beautiful country, and I have spent time there, but gosh, do I wish I had spent time there.
Yeah.
And so we actually looked at a cool cruise the other.
Last night.
Never knew Virgin Atlantic's everywhere, or Virgin the brand.
So much more outside of America.
Yeah,
I feel like.
for sure. Like Australia, definitely. I think that they live on that side of the world very much, like the Europes and.
Well, Richard Branson, he's originally from the UK, right?
I believe so. He had a really. I've been saying this for a little while now. I somehow picked up on an article of him talking about the impact his dad had on him. So again, this is actually kind of fitting for it. And I've been. I think there's certain things that I can look back at that I wish that maybe my parents did different, but there's no way that I can harp on it anymore. It's over. It's done, right?
Right.
So the only thing I can do now is change the course of the family trajectory, let's say. And so part of that is by changing mentalities. And one of the things I've really been embracing is, like my gratefulness and my just how grateful it is to be alive every day and to have a house and food and though I'm sure there's people that have way more than me. I have way more than a lot of people.
Oh, for sure.
So one of the things though
way more than so many.
So one of the things that Richard Branson's dad used to say to him as a kid was, "Isn't life wonderful?" 3 simple words, right? Isn't life wonderful?
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's from the UK or. I mean, he sounds UK-ish.
I'll look it up. Hopefully we're on the money.
But I think that is such a true statement, and that's what I want to do with our little ones is give them those, isn't life wonderful moments every day by showing them what's around, like, look at our backyard. Isn't our backyard wonderful? Isn't this little house wonderful? Isn't, so, okay, so, back to our Spanish Inquisition.
No.
Our Spanish talk here. The Virgin brand, yes, they're everywhere, but they've been in, records and they've had all sorts of stuff, right? But we didn't know that I didn't know they had a cruise line.
Yeah, me either.
Blew my mind.
No idea.
I was like, oh my gosh. And sure enough, it's like super, like rock star.
Yeah, very.
It is rock star to the T. And one of the trips they have is a Mediterranean trip, and it's Spain, Italy. No, Spain, France.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it, right? But it goes through the Mediterranean over to
Ibiza.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then one more island off the coast.
Which is Ibiza.
Mm-hmm. Sorry. I always thought they were making fun of Mike Tyson for saying it wrong. I really did. See how ignorant I am sometimes?
Terrible.
But I was like, this would be an awesome trip, though. Now, unfortunately, we couldn't take the little ones because it's a adults-only cruise.
It'd be fun for us, though.
But we could go embrace it.
We could go first and then take them later.
Do some research about where we want to show them. Kids, we're going to go drink some wine. I mean, we're going to go eat some food and look at towns and make sure that it's exactly where we want to take you.
The planning trip for our next trip.
Yeah. You stay home. Embrace your culture here.
Yes.
We're ordering you Taco Bell.
Terrible.
But part of embracing your culture is being able to laugh at your culture.
For sure.
You know, I remember so many times I say like a Mexican joke, you know, and someone's like, hey, you can't say that. I'm like, dude, I am Mexican. I can totally say a Mexican joke. But one of the all-time, you know, like funniest things about like tamales is there's always the joke around Christmas, like, why do Mexicans, you know, eat tamales? And it's like, so they have something to unwrap.
So terrible.
It is, but it's a funny joke if you're Mexican because you get it. You're like, yeah, you unwrap a tamale. Look at what you did with the first time with your tamale.
I was waiting for you to tell the story. Go ahead and tell it.
Well, you know, here we are. White Berkeley.
This is during the pandemic.
This is during the pandemic. And, you know, one of our favorite little spots is this little Mexican grocery store. And inside,
love this place so much.
Well, during
Garden Fresh.
Yeah.
Go there if you are in the Nashville area.
100%. Madison area.
Yeah.
Nashville, Madison, look it up. There's plenty, though. You can go down Nolensville Pike, and there's just all these little markets, right? And what was really cool about the place was that when the pandemic hit, everybody obviously went crazy and bought every last bit of toilet paper and all the cleaning products and, you know, went crazy. Well, the Garden Fresh, we walk in and it was like
fully stocked all the time.
There was mariachi music playing. They had beers popping. There was some masks on, a couple hand sanitizer things, but they had churros and food and toilet
fresh
paper.
Made churros.
They had all the things. And I was like, how have we never come to this place?
Yeah.
And
it was
so
like our secret little hideaway.
As we made it to the back, there was a fresh market where there was all this food. They had barbacoa, which is, you know, a very Latin dish. Then they had tamales, and then they had carnitas.
Those little, like, riblets things.
Oh, they had it all. And
wings,
so we were like
all kinds of awesome
let's
stuff.
try the tamales. Because tamales are you can have different tamales from different places.
At this point, I have had many mediocre tamales, but this place always knocks their tamales out of the park.
I've had very mediocre tamales around the world because it's easy to claim it's easy to claim a taco or a burrito or a tamale. But to me, there is a certain Mexican dish because that's what my grandma made, and that's what, you know, but I think every Hispanic or Latin person, it's hard for them to go to a restaurant that claims it because it'll never be your grandma's.
Right.
I think that goes across the board with most cultures. Shepherd's pie, you know, I've said that to people before, and they're like, "That's not shepherd's pie."
Yeah,
like, pretty sure it looks like shepherd's pie.
And they're like, "No, but that's not the way that my grandmother
That's not the way." Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it was funny because we tried it, and we bring the tamales home, and instantly I'm like, "Whoa, these are good tamales." To me,
like, these are legit.
I feel that these are legit. Like, I could take these back home to my peeps, and they would be like, "Whoa,
these are good. Where did you get these?"
Good on this place.
Yeah.
And you pulled it out and slapped it on your plate and put a bunch of salsa all over it, and then went to cut into it.
I went to cut into it.
I think my jaw hit the ground.
What are you doing?
I was like, wait, you can't eat that outside corn husk.
I didn't know you had to unwrap it. And forever you told everybody that story and just embarrassed me to
I'll still tell everybody
that.
I'm telling it to the world. I'm putting this on Instagram and everywhere.
But that's the thing, too. Like, how would I...
And that was bad on me.
Know
100%.
that you are supposed to unwrap this, like, corn husk that you cook the tamale in.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Well, and it's funny, too, because
it's
now...
not like it's like a foil wrapper where you can't eat foil. Like, it's
True.
corn. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to eat that? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I open it and there's something inside that I'm supposed to eat.
Well,
I know.
I can see it, though, from your perspective, too. You've watched Top Chef and all these food shows, and at their level, they're making tamales and stuff like that.
But
and
not serving them in the corn wrapper.
And they're doing these really foo-foo little
Yeah.
things where they open the tamale up already and you see it, but you don't actually see them eat the whole thing. You're just seeing them like, oh, yeah, there's the husk and there's all these things. So, yeah, that's a tamale, of course.
Of course.
You eat everything on your plate 90% of it.
Right.
You know, like... You
don't put it on the plate unless it's edible.
Exactly. It's like when I tell you about writing, you don't put a gun on the wall unless by act 2 or 3 you use it, you know. There's certain things that you put on plates that unless you're really going to like a fine dining thing. So yeah, like I get it, but it was just funny. So yeah, there you are.
And now tamales are like one of my favorite things to eat. I love them.
Yeah, they're delicious.
Oh, so delicious. I want to learn how to make them.
I will say this. I cannot stand the sweet ones though. The
I've
ones
never
with like
had
raisin.
a sweet one.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. That has to be definitely something that's like, yeah, that was never part of my Mexican heritage.
Well, it's been cool, definitely being married to you, and experiencing things like tamales and like the different levels of spiciness.
Yeah.
In Hispanic food. I mean, that green salsa that we get from Garden Fresh is next level, like made with habaneros and jalapenos and is just amazing. But we had to train my palate to be able to handle it.
I think
because previously the most I could handle was maybe like a mild packet from Taco Bell. Now I'm like, give me whatever the hottest one is. It's not hot enough.
I need double that.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny too because when your family comes over, we always have to like be like, hey, whoa,
this is spicy.
Watch out on that one.
Taste it first.
That will burn you. Yes. That will burn you. But I think that's another very cool thing about cultures is that you get to cross into your significant other's life. And that and bring and embrace what they have too, because there's dishes that you've brought to the table that I've eaten them, but they weren't like staples in my house, or they weren't staples that I ever would go to,
like pot roast
and meatloaf and stuff like that. Sure, they were there, but that wasn't ever something that I was like, ooh, let's go eat this.
Yeah, and these are recipes that are from like my grandmother and stuff like that. Yeah.
So I think that's one cool thing that you've given me too is cross-pollination, is by sharing your, and we do need to be better. There's no doubt about it. And I can say that openly because, like I stated earlier, I am not the best Mexican or Spanish person
or Czech.
Hispanic person or Czech person. I like things about my culture, but I could definitely
learn more
better
about
my culture because it deserves it,
Promote it more.
It does. And there's also something to be said about our American culture too. It's like we aren't just Mexican. We are Mexican Americans.
Right.
There is a difference. There is, like I grew up in America. I am proud to be an American. I am proud of where I live. I am all those things, but I also am proud to respect other people's cultures and understand that we should be a mixing pot. That's the funnest part about it. Like I think that's one thing that was really cool about living in Houston was that it was a mixing pot. It was like one of the biggest mixing pots in the United States. And being there, you can go eat so many different things. You go get your hair cut by these, I think they're Vietnamese, but you walk in and it is their haircut culture, though, in front of you. It's not like a sports clips or... Right. It is very Asian cultured in there. And it's like, whoa, this is kind of interesting. But they embrace you. They bring you in, you sit down, you do it the way that they want to do it. Show them a photo. They don't talk to you. And they charge you $10 and you're out the door.
Amazing.
But I think that those are those moments in life that, as a young person, I just didn't get it. And that's why I feel like that's one thing that we're going to be able to give our kids is the mistakes that we've made. we can honestly look at them and say, look, yeah, of course I could be better. We could all be better at things. But one of the things we can definitely be better at is embracing and loving the culture that we have
Mm-hmm.
and where we live, and then understanding and then sharing.
Yeah.
Because that's part of it too.
Absolutely.
I don't want to just hold on to my Mexican heritage and not share it with friends that come over. Sure, they might not get some of the dishes, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe we just shared it. And then the next time
Yeah.
they come over, they're like, hey, what's that one thing that you made that one
That
time?
was delicious. Can we have that again?
Like, I'm never going to make it at my house, but every time I come over, it'd be cool if you made it.
Well, that's like growing up on Cape Cod, and you've seen me make this before because I was craving it during the beginning of this pregnancy.
Uh-huh.
But my best friend's mom, I had never had Spam before
Oh, yeah.
in my life. And so Sydney is Black, Puerto Rican,
Uh-huh.
and Korean.
Yeah.
So really, really 3 very different cultures
Yeah.
with incredible, like, food traditions.
100%.
And so I went over, I slept over at her house one night in high school, and her mom was making us breakfast the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
And she made us this dish, and I was super confused. And the ignorant white girl in me is like, I don't know if I'm going to eat that. Because it was rice and beans,
Yeah.
Spam, green olives,
Yeah.
and then an egg on top.
Yeah.
And you just cut it all up and mix it all in. And my first bite, I was like, oh my gosh, this is salty and savory and
Uh-huh.
delicious.
Uh-huh.
And now I want to eat it all the time. So now
Yeah.
every time when I make it here, I'm like, tell your mom, Anita, that I am making her amazing, I guess, it was really probably the Puerto Rican side that
Mhm.
mostly came out in that dish.
Yeah.
But just such a cool experience to get to see something that you've never had before.
Right.
And they had lived in Hawaii too, and Spam is really big in
Mm.
Hawaii, so that brought in
Yep.
that part of their culture as
Mhm.
well. So I love getting to experience new and different things like that, and then
100%.
adopting them
Yeah.
and taking them from there. I can't wait to make it for our kids. It's so good.
I think food is definitely one of the best icebreakers into a culture
Mm-hmm.
because it instantly sparks a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whoa, I didn't know that flavor existed.
Yeah.
And to me, it's one of the easier ways to break into a culture too.
Mhm.
Because, yeah, when the Spanish Mexican culture, you can get real deep. Art
Mhm.
and religion and all the things. The stonework, the masonry. There's just so
Mhm.
much to it. And every culture has their stuff, but I think that the food is the first.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize that. You brought up salsa earlier, and I think that's always a great. Well, for one, there's a great Seinfeld episode about salsa and seltzer.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I won't put you through that kind of
Okay.
pain. But salsa is one of those ones where you go to a table or you go to a Mexican restaurant and you can instantly see someone who's very comfortable who's been around Spanish because they just will try them all right away without even flinching.
Yeah.
But then someone who's not so, hip on their Hispanic
It's
culture,
is this spicy? Is that spicy?
dip little chips in them first.
Or put a tiny bit on your finger
Yeah.
and taste it.
Me, I go straight in because if
yeah.
it burns, then it just means that the next one is gonna burn even better, and then better, and then next thing you know, you're sweating.
Yep.
But that to me though then sparks that conversation of I wonder what's in this, or I wonder
what
where
pepper did they use?
and two, as you go through those, Spanish and Mexican heritages, Spain is super seafood, but, especially around the coast and stuff, and so you don't have a table full of salsas, but you have different condiments, and the fish are soaked in olive oils and
right. Oh, I love Spanish olive oil.
and Spanish olive oil, delicious.
The best.
But you go to a Mexican, coastline, and you're gonna have you'll have fishes and stuff, but you'll have salsas that they
Right.
run through them, or
Right.
it just is a different. You'll have more of the the pico based stuff.
Right.
You have ceviches and these really rich citrusy flavors, and then as you go inward in Mexico, you still have some of that, but it definitely is more of
Changes to more land-based
stuff. You have your goats and your lambs and
Yep.
things like that are another thing that our buddy Juan, who is on the show, he's a great example of someone who can really embrace Mexican culture. He's from Mexico.
Right, yeah.
For one. And
goes back
but
all
you
the
go
time.
hang out with him and his family when they cook, there's beef, pork,
Everything.
There's shrimps, there's avocados, there's cactus. There, like, he really, really embraces not just the fact like, oh, you're going to come over and have tacos. Let me cook you one thing.
Homemade tortillas.
Homemade
like, all the
tortillas,
stuff.
fresh salsas. And he really, really does cook from the heart. And I think then there is the next step in really embracing a culture is, you taste it and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Blows my mind. And then you meet the person, and you can tell that they just have love for what they do, and and I think that's the coolest thing about learning about different cultures. So though this is mainly based around our Hispanic culture, which is now a part of your life,
it is. I love that it is.
Of course, and I love being a part of your culture, and I do think that as we grow as a family, the best thing that we can do is travel.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's hands down that for us to stay here and preach a bunch of love and learn and all this junk. The only way we can do it is to travel.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
sure, like we might have to pause for that travel for a minute and let the kids get to a point where
they can appreciate it and learn.
Well, yeah, because it's one thing like us taking our little 9-month-old around.
Yeah, they're not going to remember.
We will have a blast,
right?
Potentially.
Yeah, maybe. Depending on how they're behaving.
And I don't want to go sit on a flight for 12 hours with a.
That's very true.
We can, but yeah, you get my point though, and I think that's the beauty behind it all, and I wanted to share that with everyone because, like I said, you hear my voice if you only listen to us. You see my face and hear my stunning voice if you watch us on the YouTube. Or maybe you just are someone that just follows us on the social medias. And it's easy to look at someone and assume it's fine. We all do it. We're all stereotypers.
Yeah. I mean, it unfortunately just happens.
But also at the same time, though, I think that it's important. Sure, fine, whatever. If you want to stereotype, but be also open to new cultures and new learnings and new things that you might not have ever engaged with. And I think that's the coolest thing. That
I think being curious and accepting of things that that you haven't been exposed to is so important.
It's over the top important, and I am vowing now that that's part of this growth that I've been in, and part of leaving the road was so I could become more, and part of that more is being culturally more.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird because
you visited all these places.
I felt like I was super well, and I was so conceited about it too. Like, oh, I'm world traveled.
Right.
I know all this stuff. I've been here. Oh, shut up. I've been there. I've seen a lot of airports and I've seen a lot of arenas, but
but I haven't immersed myself in the real culture.
No one has until you truly, truly give yourself like a solid couple weeks somewhere. There's just no way. You can't
It's impossible.
You can say all day long, well, I've been in that city 14 times. Over the course of 20 years, which it's changed dramatically.
Right. Absolutely.
But the one thing that won't change is some of that deep-rooted culture, which you can't just go to a city center one time. You have to go in and go to the neighborhoods, try the things. So enough of my ranting and raving about how I was an ignorant roadie for many, many years.
It's all good.
But I was, though, and I'm willing to admit that. So
now we're making up for it.
Now I'm making up for it, changing. But cool. Well, and we're onto our new platform. So I think this show it was great.
Yeah, agree.
I'm going to give it 5 stars right now. I think everybody should go give it 5 stars.
Give us 5 stars.
So if you're watching this right now or listening to this, make sure to exit out of whatever.
We need to go to Garden Fresh this weekend. It's been far too long.
And give them 5 stars.
Oh, that place is amazing.
But one thing that we've been talking about, and this is one culture that I've wanted to get a little bit deeper in, is the Korean culture.
Yeah.
And here in Nashville, there is a big Korean
culture here in Nashville.
Yeah. One of our friends,
go check that out.
She's Korean, and we've talked to her a few times about places to go. It's we just have to make the effort.
We need to just get out
Yeah.
of the house.
But the one thing
With
that I will
babies,
say
it's a little
that
hard.
surprisingly though, the Hispanic culture here in Tennessee is I'd say it reminds
It's very
me
prevalent,
it reminds me of home. Which
is awesome.
Yeah, even when I lived in San Antonio, there was a big Hispanic present there, but it was a Tex-Mex in a way. I feel like Tex-Mex outweighed some of the Mexican, but at the same time, I also probably didn't venture down deep enough.
Right.
So again,
True.
being ignorant and just seeing it for one side was my bad, but
True. I still need to take you to Plaza Mariachi.
yeah, we have to go. We have a lot on our plates. I think we're
All
gonna.
the plans.
I think we're gonna pump out some kids,
And
give
then go
our
experience the
life.
things.
You know, I turned 40 in a month.
You do.
I'm just living I just finished my second part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I am just starting 3.
Yep.
So I think about it that way. If I, God willing, can make it to somewhere where my relatives have lived, which is in their 90s, a lot of them.
Yeah.
I have 2 more lives to live.
Yeah.
I am not
much more.
I'm not worried about trying or going experience. I think focusing right now on what we need to do to achieve that travel is the most important.
Mm-hmm.
So it's prioritizing time.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. So yeah, sure. Maybe our Mexican trip is Garden Fresh once a week.
Yep.
And maybe that's our heritage coming around, and maybe we find a German restaurant and we go there for a little while. But eventually we will.
We'll go to these places.
We will.
For sure.
So, all right, y'all. I don't know about you, but it is Saturday. I'm gonna go watch some college football and do nothing.
Hey, we got a lot to do.
That's a lot. But we appreciate your time as always. We thank you so much for listening to us. Thank you for listening to us talk about my Hispanic roots.
Yeah. Happy National Hispanic Heritage Month, everybody.
Happy National Hispanic Heritage Month, and to all those people out there, like I said, 5 stars.
Woo-hoo.
Click it, subscribe, hit it, all the things.
All the things.
Follow us.
Yes.
Almost burped. Sorry.
Oh goodness. We'll see you guys soon.
Much love. Cheers.
Bottoms up.
Cheers. Bottoms up.
Yay.
Salud.
Salud.
Salud. It's cheers in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, cheers.
I did just cheers you.
I'll do it again.
Oh.
One more time. Okay. Salud. I wish I would have had tequila on this show. That would have been better.
Soon.
I did like the liquid IV, but
Yes.
tequila would have been awesome.
It would.
And thanks, Earthworks. These things are awesome.
Yes. Bye, everybody.
Cheers. Bottoms up. Later. Bye.